On the night of November 24th, 1971, a man jumped out of a moving airplane, 10,000 feet above the ground, into a freezing storm, wearing nothing but a business suit and a pair of loafers. And he was never seen again. No body, no parachute, no footprints. Just $200,000 in cash that vanished into thin air, along with the man who took it. To this day, the FBI doesn't know his real name. They don't know if he's alive or dead. And somewhere in the forests of Washington state, his secret might still be buried. This is the story of D.B. Cooper, the only hijacker in American history who got away with it. It was the day before Thanksgiving. A quiet, ordinary afternoon at Portland International Airport. A man in his mid-40s walked up to the Northwest Orient Airlines counter. He was wearing a dark suit, a white shirt, and a black tie. Nothing about him stood out. He paid cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle and gave his name as Dan Cooper. He boarded Flight 305, took his seat near the back of the plane, and ordered a bourbon and soda like any other passenger. Nobody on that plane had any idea they were about to become part of one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in aviation history. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper passed a folded note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. At first, she assumed it was just a man trying to get her number, so she slipped it into her pocket without even looking. Cooper leaned over and quietly said, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." She opened it. The note said he had a bomb in his briefcase and wanted her to sit next to him. When she did, he opened the case just enough for her to see a tangle of wires and red cylinders. Then he calmly dictated his demands: $200,000 in $20 bills and 4 parachutes. Not 1, 4. Investigators would later wonder if that number meant he was planning to take a hostage with him, or if he simply wanted backup parachutes in case of a trap. The pilot radioed the demands to the ground. Seattle authorities scrambled. Banks gathered the cash. The local skydiving community pulled together parachutes. And for hours, the Boeing 727 circled above Seattle while the passengers had no idea anything was wrong. They were told there was simply a minor mechanical problem. When the plane finally landed, Cooper kept his word in his own strange way. He allowed all 36 passengers and 1 flight attendant to leave. In exchange, he received the money, packed into a canvas bag, and the 4 parachutes. Then he ordered the remaining crew, the pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and 1 attendant, to take off again. His destination: Mexico City. But he had very specific instructions on how the plane needed to fly. Slow, low altitude, flaps down, landing gear deployed. He wanted the plane flying at the minimum possible speed, just above stalling point. This is where the case takes its strangest turn. Cooper didn't just know how to hijack a plane. He seemed to know exactly how a Boeing 727 worked. When crew members told him the rear stairway couldn't be lowered mid-flight, he corrected them, saying it could be done once they were airborne. He was right. Investigators later discovered that this exact detail had been documented in an internal Boeing test report years earlier, the kind of information an ordinary passenger would have no reason to know. Somewhere between Seattle and Reno, a little after 8 o'clock at night, in the middle of a thunderstorm, Cooper lowered the aft staircase of the plane. The crew in the cockpit felt the aircraft shudder and dip. And then, nothing. When the plane landed in Reno, Cooper was gone. No trace. No sound. He had jumped out of the back of a commercial airliner, at night, into freezing rain, over dense forest, with $200,000 strapped to his body. And then, silence. For decades. The FBI launched a massive investigation, codenamed Norjack. They tracked down and interviewed over 1,000 possible suspects. They used a military spy plane to retrace the flight path. They even recreated the jump using a 200-pound dummy pushed out of an identical aircraft just to understand what might have happened to him. Nothing solid ever surfaced. The only real physical evidence Cooper left behind was a cheap clip-on tie, a few cigarette butts, and a single hair on his seat. Then, in 1980, 9 years after the hijacking, an 8-year-old boy was digging in the sand along the Columbia River when he found a rotting bundle of cash. The serial numbers matched the ransom money exactly. It was the first and only piece of the money ever recovered. But here's the eerie part. Scientists later studied microscopic organisms found inside the cash bundle and discovered something disturbing. Those bundles hadn't been sitting in that riverbank since the night of the hijacking. They had entered the water months later, which means someone or something moved that money long after Cooper disappeared. So what actually happened to him? One theory says he never survived the jump at all. His parachute couldn't be steered. He had no real skydiving experience. He jumped into freezing weather, into a forest, at night, wearing dress shoes. Many investigators believe his body is still out there somewhere, lost in the wilderness of southwest Washington, forever hidden by trees that have grown over him for more than 50 years. Another theory insists he made it, that he had military training, that he knew the aircraft because he had worked around it, that he planned the entire escape down to the last detail, and simply vanished into a new life somewhere, becoming an ordinary man with an extraordinary secret he carried to his grave. The FBI considered hundreds of suspects. A convicted hijacker named Richard McCoy looked almost identical to Cooper's description and pulled off a nearly identical hijacking just months later, but he was eventually ruled out. Other names have surfaced too, even recently, with family members coming forward decades later, claiming their own father or relative might have been Cooper. Each lead reopened the case for a moment, and each one eventually went cold again. In 2016, after 45 years, the FBI officially closed active investigation into the case. Not because they solved it, but because, after going through every lead imaginable, there was simply nothing left to chase. To this day, D.B. Cooper remains the only hijacker in U.S. aviation history who was never caught. No body, no grave, no confession. Just a man in a business suit who stepped out of an airplane door into a storm and stepped straight into legend. Somewhere out there, in a forest that has long since grown over whatever he left behind, his secret is still buried. Maybe in the ground. Maybe in someone's family photo album. Maybe in a story an old man once told his children, never admitting it was true. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of this whole case. It's not that we don't know who D.B. Cooper was. It's that he's the only one who ever truly got away with it. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comments who you think D.B. Cooper really was. And subscribe, because this channel is just getting started on the world's greatest unsolved mysteries.
Subscribe to my channel!